when I finally got packaged out in 2014, my mind opened up. My possibilities, because remember, I went from being a pretty smart kid, like, when I graduated from university with
MBA,
honors,
everything.
MBA, to feeling like an idiot.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm like, I actually had to pull myself up and I remember opening up and saying, you're not stupid. I had to tell myself this because I felt like, well, even though I knew I was going to get let go, I knew like I really didn't love what I was doing. But when somebody fail at anything, you start to get self-conscious. And it's, even though that's the best possible thing that could have happened to me, right? Mm-hmm. Then eventually I just kicked myself in the ass and said, hold on a second here. Like, you have a lot of things going for you. And then my mind opened up, and then all these possibilities opened up. And it was like, I would go to bed at night and I'd be excited because there was like a weight lifted from me.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the DC Talks podcast. I'm your host, Agent 00 Ono Sende, and we are back in the building again, man. Episode 34.
Back in the studio.
Back in the studio.
Yeah.
The DC studios.
Yeah.
That's what we call it. DC, how you doing, man?
A little tired today.
A little tired?
Yeah.
You getting ready for Nashville tomorrow?
Yeah. Well, not tomorrow. A couple of days. Yeah.
A couple of days.
I had a buddy come over. It was a little later night. So,
yeah.
But yeah, we're here doing this. Love it.
What's the trip to Nashville about?
Going to visit a buddy who had a baby.
Baby, eh?
Yeah.
Baby girl or boy?
A little boy.
Liam.
Boy, eh?
Liam.
Yeah.
Nice. You're going with Nat.
Yeah. I haven't seen him. And then our other buddy's coming too. I haven't seen, the last time we saw all of us was February 2020. Went to my buddy Les. They went to his friend's wedding in Wisconsin. So it's the last time we've been there.
First time in Nashville?
Yeah, never been.
Man, I hear like Nashville is like the there's this guy on TikTok, he calls it like the Vegas of bridal showers. No, bridal showers, or like the bachelorette capital or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a single guy. You can go there, man. You just meet all these like bachelorettes and everything, have a good time.
Ruin a couple of marriages.
Whatever happened in Nashville stays in Nashville, man.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? But on that topic, man, friendships, like, you're going to meet some friends and everything like that. And one of the key things that as I'm getting older, you start realizing how tough it is to make new friends because you grow up.
Maybe you're just not a likable guy.
I think I'm a likable guy.
Just kidding. You're such a dick. No wonder you can't put up.
I'm a dick. You're a dick, man.
Oh, I can be a huge dick. Yeah.
But like when you get older, you stay with your groups of friends who you've been with, like, let's say since college or sometimes even high school if you live in a small town, right?
Yeah.
How are you finding like making new friends as you get older now that you're married and have kids?
Much more difficult. It's funny because you think that your circle of friends as you get older that you would meet more people and you would find more people to be friends with. Mm-hmm. It's actually the opposite, I think, and you'll see too. It's like you start off with a large group of friends and then it just kind of it's not like you cut people out of your life. Like, well, some people you have to, but but I just find that like we have a lot of peripheral friends, right? So friends from high school, like I still, we just went to a J game with them, for example, like our high school class and stuff. And we had like 8 or 9 of us. We're on a group chat and it's great, right? But I would say, but they're like maybe a couple of them are my closer friends. You wouldn't say everybody, but it just as you get older, there's a couple of people you confide in, and it's like, so yeah, like your go-to friends. I guess it's kind of like it happens.
Yeah. So like you realize these dudes, right? They get married, they get comfortable. And the only friends they make is like when their wives have get-togethers and they bring their other husbands in the mix.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Mm-hmm.
It literally is, right? Yeah. Like you need to have your own friends for your own sanity.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes you bitch about your wife or if you're married about your husband and stuff too. You don't always want to get back to them. Again, you don't want to get back to them because you're already angry and you don't really want to fight. You just want to air your dirty laundry to somebody who's close and it's not going to get back to your wife.
Yeah.
Well, if your friend you're talking to is your wife's best friend's husband, that shit's going to get back to you.
She's going to find out. She's going to find out like crazy, man.
Yeah, listen, I don't think it's just men that need this. Like you need your own friends. You need to get away from each other. That you can't do everything together. You just can't.
But how do you seek those friendships? Because think about it, as a guy in college, you have common interests.
Sure.
There's like different clubs, you can do intramurals, you can do whatever. But as you get older, how do you go to like another dude and be like, you know what? I see we are alike or we have similar interests. I can seek a friendship out of you. Like,
so the first thing, you don't do that, because it's like, and same with the real estate, that just, you're going to have commission breath. You're going to have you're gonna have friendship breath, and it's like, yeah, it's like a needy. I'm like, maybe I don't want, maybe I don't want to be friends with you. No, like I think at this point, it's, you do your thing, figure out what makes you happy. And if somebody's always there too, like I found friends at the gym, like as I was getting older, and it's like, you're constantly working out and you just kind of have a conversation here and there. And then you just find out, then you start having an interest, or like, and then you're like, it's like dating, I guess, exactly the same way. Like, hey, you want to grab a beer afterwards? Like, what, like if you find out you're in the same sports or same thing, like same likes, you know, and then you're like, that's how it kind of forms. It has to be a natural process, right? And then, you know, I guess you test people out, like in the sense to what you confide in them, see how they react, and see if they're like-minded, right? We all know how that went through with the pandemic, and how many people were, you know, bashing each other, families breaking apart because of different sides of the spectrum. And like, you know, even my buddy was talking to yesterday, like he, you know, at one point I didn't even talk to his brother for like 3 years, you know, or went to very spare like that, or sister-in-law, and to talk to her brother in like 3 years. And that just all because of different ideologies. And it's like, damn, you know, you guys grew up in the same house. It's like, yeah.
And like when you get older, right, do you find that those ideologies, you attract those people who have those similar ideologies, mainly like, let's say politics or religion, those become stronger than when you were younger, let's say?
But you also need someone having a juxtaposition, the opposite opinion of yours, to kind of keep you in check. Like I've said this before with my wife, and it doesn't have to be your wife, but somebody keeps you in check, right? Like during the pandemic, for example, there was a lot of misinformation coming out on both sides. Even with the Trump and thing, there's a lot of misinformation. So I would send her something too. And she's like, you know, check it. And sometimes the fact checkers are also wrong too. And it's like, so you need to have somebody saying, kind of reel you in a little bit. And now, like, you know, even in the Bible, it talks about, you know, making sure you test all that you see, be very skeptical. And if somebody tells you it's from God, you know, test it, make sure it's right. You know, you don't want to be spreading stuff which is not true just because maybe it follows along with your ideology. It makes you feel good inside, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, it's okay to, like, you need those people in your life too, to kind of question you. Sometimes it gets a little frustrating, you know, like Jay Pereira was here, for example, like, and Jay and I, we formed a friendship as adults. We started doing jiu-jitsu together. We found her, like, him and my wife went to high school together. And then we started building a relationship on an intellectual level as well, because we'd bounce ideas. And then another friend, Joe Durzo, another friend, we started going out, try to do once a month, because we would talk about all these other topics. And that's a friendship, a close friendship that was formed in our 30s, 40s, actually, you know, like actually closer to in our 40s, which doesn't happen very often. We had a history together, we kind of touched away, but we're not always on the same page, but we learn from each other, which is cool. And like, did you see this? And we pass ideas. So I would argue, especially with friendships, be careful the ones that just are always saying, oh yeah, I agree with you. Yes. Like, sometimes it's good.
Having yes men around you.
Yes, but like the conversation I had yesterday with my buddy Niall and his wife, Sarah. And Natalie's on the side because she's just not into all the conspiracy stuff and what we've seen and, you know, the end times and God and
rapture,
and rapture. And exactly. And we're bouncing ideas. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? And sometimes that's really cool too. Like it's nice, but it's also sometimes having somebody the opposite
to challenge your thoughts
and expand your mind. Right.
Yeah.
Because we're on this earth, you know, to continue to learn and help other people and to push. Right. We're not just there to be sheeple in any stretch of the imagination and just be like fed, whether that's religion, people like just giving you religions like, yes, sir, just doing everything they say, because it's like, no, you have to push even in the religious aspect. It's like, is this of God or not? Where is it putting me? Right. And if you're just following along, man, what a boring existence if you're just always saying, being the yes man.
Yeah, man. And your career, from the outside looking in, I can say that you've benefited greatly from like forming friendships by default, because you're a realtor, you're out here, you're doing a lot of events, you're a community member, you're doing everything just to like showcase that you care for people and you want to serve them. Have you ever approached a situation like a potential relationship and not have the idea of, I want to help you with real estate or whatever, I just want to continue this friendship, and not even bring real estate into the topic?
Absolutely not.
You have to bring real estate into the topic?
No. I mean, like if somebody needs my help.
Yeah.
I don't care what part of a relationship you are. I'm like, if you're my mother, you're my father, you're my sister, my cousins. I'm the best person for you for that. And I have a good track record for that as well. Being able to separate the relationship with the business and making sure I am kicking ass for you as your realtor. I know I'm going to do it better than my competition because I actually care. So I really care for my clients. And you're part of like, so it's like my clients, which may have not known me before, almost become family. Like, well, you weren't kidding, right? I'm like, no, like you become part of the family. And it's weird when you have your own family just say, I'm going to go to the realtor. I'm like, really, I care even that much for my clients, and you're already part of my family. I already care about you. So no, I don't. I relish working for it's the opposite. I relish working for my family.
But DC, what I'm saying is like, if you are saying that you're making friends, right? Like, let's say at this time of your life, do you switch off that realtor brain part of you and be like, I just want to be homies with you for just being homies with you and not being an agent first?
You haven't talked to many realtors, have you?
No.
We can't turn it off. It's literally, I love this one meme, and I showed it when I was earlier, and it's a guy in a bathroom, right, in his stall. And then you see the second picture, this other guy goes to pees right beside him.
Yeah.
And he turns to him and said, hey, by the way, I'm a realtor. And like, that's our life. Like no one asks, and all of a sudden that's why there's so many memes out there too about realtors. And it's like, all of a sudden you hear real estate, and it's like guys popping up, like running. Like it's just, well, the ones that take it seriously, let's be honest. Okay. The ones that take, because we have realtors too that you would never know they're realtors, and they don't kick ass. So they might as not.
Yeah,
they might as not be a realtor. But anyway, that's some of them. But I'm saying, but the ones of us that love our job, love being a realtor, you know that. We love helping people. We figure out like a lot of it is problem solving, so it expands your brain. I think that's why. So when you hear something about real estate, and if somebody's having a problem with their realtor, I'm just like, hey, how can I help?
Yeah,
I'm not going to sit back and be like, So I've literally had conversations with people, and I said, your realtor needs to do this, 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 and this, and this. I'm not even getting paid for this, or I'm just telling you, I'm like, this is what you need to do to sell your property.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember like there's one story you shared, every dinner party, every party you go with Nat, like you just promote yourself like immediately. Yeah, I'm a realtor. Like I sell homes and everything. I can help you. Okay, whatever.
Well, she says it that way. I don't necessarily.
She was making it seem as if like you just go there and you're like a walking billboard, like DC realtor Chinelli on your chest.
Well, if we're having a conversation, I will talk a lot about the podcast, and I'll talk about Instagram, and it's like, oh, by the way, I'm a realtor. It comes out in conversation.
Yeah,
it's a big part of my life. Like imagine, right? It's hard to not say it, right?
Yeah. Do you sometimes have a hard time? Like, I know you said you have a hard time separating it, but when you do separate yourself from being a realtor, who are you in that scenario then?
I'm a husband.
Yeah. I'm
a father.
Yeah.
Former hockey player. Awesome dude. Christian is a big part of it too. I would say there's a lot of hats I wear, right? So it's funny in an environment where there's a lot of realtors, but none of us really talk. Like on our hockey team, for example, there's like 7 realtors on the team. We just talk about business when there's sometimes, but it's like, it's known, but it's not always like that. We talk about other things, right? So the other things that enjoy you, like sort of other things that kind of stimulate you, right? But it's funny with a lot of the Jewish guys I play with too. So we don't talk about religion.
No, that's a big no-no, man.
Well, it could be a fight in there too, because like especially with the some of the Jews that just will deny Jesus. So and it's like, well, why would I want to start a fight with my own teammates? Like it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And with like friendships, like from the outside, you have friends who you've grown up with. There's the new friends. There's also being friends with your family, right? When you grow up, I find myself like I look at my sisters differently because now we're grown adults, and I know you're my sister, but there's a friendship that exists there. How do you continue cultivating those like relationships internally with, let's say, your mom, your brother, cousins, relatives, and etc.? Like, how do you keep in touch with them to check up on them and etc.?
Great question. So I think we talked about this before, but if those are listening, so some of my cousins, we have a group and we meet once a month and a bit. And that it's set in our schedules. Our wives know that we're doing that. We'll have like dinner, cigars, and we talk. Mm-hmm. And that's we kind of let, and I highly suggest this for most men to do that. Have a core group of people that you can just talk and not be judged. Mm-hmm. Let your feelings out. Sometimes we've cried. Sometimes, like a lot of times we laugh. I joke. Sometimes, I help my cousins too. They all went to get checked after I had my brain issue. But it takes effort. It's like while we're there, we set the schedule. We set that we make sure we call each other. We make sure this happens. And then my cousin Anthony, a lot of times, like, cause he watches me on social media and stuff, he'll reach out to me if I post something, because other than the podcast, I post something every day. And sometimes like my Chinelli chats be what's going on in my inner thoughts. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're dark, and he'll call me once in a while. He's like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, I just needed to get it out," because he knows me. Mm-hmm. That friendship, again, like he's 9 years older than me. I'm 45. He just turned 52. So it's funny because we grew up as him, like older, like never, like it just not part of our circle. Now he's a big part of my circle.
Yeah.
And we cultivated that. It just didn't fall in our lap.
It takes effort.
It takes effort. Yeah. Like you have a brother, like I have two brothers, like, and the relationships are always dynamic and changing. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'm close with one, sometimes I'm not close with the other. Sometimes we're fighting and not talking to each other. Like my oldest brother hasn't really talked to my middle. They talk now, but the relationship really got strained almost 20 years ago when my middle brother got married, right? Mm-hmm. But my older brother doesn't work on relationships. Mm-hmm. He just expects us to be a certain way. Mm-hmm. And we've been pushing back a lot. And it's like, you don't get respect just because you're the oldest brother. Mm-hmm. You have to earn respect. And it's just, he doesn't get it. Right.
Yeah. What's that transition period like? Because when you're younger, I have like two older siblings. You yield to them for guidance, and let's say they are the decision makers, just natural order. Like this is across all siblings. How did that change?
Not across our family, but it's
not across your family. But yeah, talk more about that. Like when you got older, how did that start? The shift from, I'm like relatively older now. Like I'm 30 something. I know you're my brother. I have my opinions. I have my way of viewing things. And just because you're the older brother, I'm not going to listen to you. You're going to listen to me because I have some input as well too. And you don't have final say.
Well, my older brother still doesn't believe that. So it's funny. We grew up with a family of 3 boys. And my middle brother, so I'm the baby, right? Mm-hmm. My middle brother's 2 years older than I am. My oldest brother's 6 years. Mm-hmm. My oldest brother was born with spina bifida, and he was treated very different growing up than me and my middle brother were growing up. Actually, me and my middle brother grew up almost like twins. We started doing everything together, played hockey together, went to school together, did a lot of stuff. So we relied on him. So my middle brother basically became my older brother. Mm-hmm. For guidance and those kinds of things. Like he was smart. So my oldest brother had some, he just wasn't as good at school. Like it's just very, very different dynamic. And it's even till this day, but I don't know when it shifted that I became home. Like when I went away to university, I was just little bratty little brother, 14 hours away from home, never called home, didn't care. Like it was just
living your life.
A little bit of an asshole, a little bit of selfish asshole. And my wife will tell you that too. When we got back together, we only after university, we broke up when I went to university, got back together, it lasted 8 months because I was such a prick. Mm-hmm. And I admit that, because you don't realize you're being selfish at the time. You're 24 years old.
What made you a prick? Like, what were you doing?
Well, because you're on your own for 4 years, did what you want when you wanted. No one told you what to do, really. Right? And it's so when you're trying to have a relationship with somebody you had beforehand, and she remembers you then, and you're like how that relationship was. And at that time, Natalie actually, I was not submissive, but like younger, right? So I would take more of the lead. Well, then 4 years later, where she's actually gone to university too, and Australia has become her own person, we just were butting heads a lot, right? So I had to do some growing up to do. So when we broke up for 3 years, and then I don't know when the shift happened, right before, maybe basically before my dad passed away. I think that's when I was let go from Hydro. I kind of like things. My mentality changed a lot. When I was working in corporate, and then where I was working, you don't realize it at the time, but depending on what the corporate culture you have, it could be very toxic. Mm-hmm. And in this environment, I didn't realize at the time, but I felt like, well, like a battered wife. Nothing was good enough. Like, and I don't even know if my boss realized he was doing this at the time, but every time you had an opinion or something, everything got knocked down. Everything, I was like, you weren't smart enough. Things weren't going right. No one's appraised. And it was just over and over and over again. When I finally got packaged out in 2014, my mind opened up. My possibilities, because remember, I went from being a pretty smart kid, like, when I graduated from university with honors, MBA, and to feeling like an idiot.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm like, I actually had to pull myself up and I remember opening up and saying, you're not stupid. I had to tell myself this because I felt like, well, even though I knew I was going to get let go, I really didn't love what I was doing. But when somebody fail at anything, you start to get self-conscious. And it's, even though that's the best possible thing that could have happened to me, right? Mm-hmm. Then eventually I just kicked myself in the ass and said, hold on a second here. Like, you have a lot of things going for you. And then my mind opened up, and then all these possibilities opened up. And it was like, I would go to bed at night and I'd be excited because there was like a weight lifted from me. And then my attitude
like a clean
changed.
Slate.
Yeah. And then my attitude started to change. And then when I started to kick ass in university, like in real estate, without even wanting to be a realtor at the time, when I was passing the exam, I was teaching people, I'm like, I'm actually better at this than I thought. Mm-hmm. Things just started to fall into place, and I became much different person. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say I was even negative when I was working, in the corporate, but wasn't as positive. I'll tell you that. Mm-hmm. Looking at I'm reading on, it wasn't self-help, but it's always looking at possibilities and things to do. And my mind just shifted. And a lot of that had to do with, with prayer and God and opening up at that too. I think a lot of that had to do with it because he was saying, no, this is a path I have. And he kept pushing me certain ways. And I know some people don't believe, and they believe in the universe. I'm like, no, God literally talked to me certain things. He's like, do this. I'm like, are you sure? Do this. And he kept pushing me. And I was like, now I know why. Mm-hmm. Because I was meant to do this, right? And helping people too. But when that shift happened, and then my dad passed away, my mother relied on me to help her with a lot of the because I had the background in the finance. And that's kind of like, actually just before my dad passed away, he started to give stuff to me because he recognized that. And then it kind of solidified after, when my dad wasn't there to handle the stuff that the financials, the dealing with selling of properties, looking at the holistic, like what you need to do to revamp and help. And I explained this to my mom. I kind of went into a different mindset now compared to my brothers. Now they start asking me questions like, well, my middle brother doesn't care too much about the properties and stuff too. But I think even for him, he can see that this is the niche I'm in there. Now, not to say that anyone is superior, but we're also at the point where push back, like we have intelligent conversations. Like, no, you need, you have to respect me for what I've done. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you respect back. Mm-hmm. It's just, but when you don't get the respect because you feel that you're superior because you're born on this certain ladder, it doesn't fly very well with me.
Yeah. And you being someone who wants to cultivate relationships, wants to see the best in others.
Absolutely.
A positive force for others. What efforts do you make, even though with that history, to make that relationship stronger between you and your bro?
Well, before I had a conversation with him when he was in the hospital, I was like, everything he was looking at negative, I said, you got to look at the positives on this because you can start inspiring people. So I'd have conversations with him, and I would text him and try to help him see things in a positive way as opposed to the negative. Mm-hmm. So like, for example, there's parts of his body that are failing because they're artificial. And I'm like, do you not realize your life expectancy was only supposed to be 20, then it was 30? I'm like, you're outliving the stuff in your body because nobody expected you to live that long. Do you not see what a miracle that is? Mm-hmm. Do you not see how amazing you have an opportunity at this point? And I hope he watches this podcast because even though we're not really talking at this moment, but do you not see the possibilities? You can be inspiring people. Look what God gave me. Gave me a chance. Like I wasn't supposed to make it past 20 years old. I remember having a conversation with my dad in our old house, and we were cleaning the veranda in the back, and he just started crying. He goes, it wasn't crying. So he was just like, I was like, why are you treating me different than Frank? How come Frank's not here? And he's like, and I remember him saying to me, and he was like, you your brother's not really supposed to expect it to live that long. You know, he's 25 years. So we're just trying to make it as comfortable for him as he in this time, something along those lines. I think it was the wrong approach because they never really pushed him the wrong way. But anyway, so fast forward to my brother, like saying this now, you're 51 years old. Imagine the positivity you can spread. You can go to kids that are struggling with way worse conditions than you. And it's saying like, listen, you can push through this. Like, I wasn't expected to do this. The doctors will say this, screw them. Believe in yourself and look what you can do. Like, listen. And then he got all negative and we don't talk for right now. Yeah. Like I love my brother. I'm trying for him to see that we're not talking at this point, not because of anything else. I just want him to stop shitting on everybody and being so negative. It's not helping him.
What do you think that mindset comes from him not wanting to see the brighter side, even though he has so much to give? But he's holding back these blessings that he's been given.
I think a lot of it's cultural. I think
cultural? Like the Italian culture. Or?
Yeah, like we're all negative. A lot of the old school Italians. Oh yeah. You can never boast. It's culture. A lot of it too. It's like like you can't get too high because you're worried about somebody's going to give you Molokyo, the evil eye, and everything's going to go negative. And it's like, so negativity's been.
I think huge in your family.
It's huge. Yeah.
And like with your brother's side, like now your mom being the person who's relying on you the most, how did that relationship change from when you're younger and now when you start having more responsibility and more care for her, and like now you're the eldest? It seems like she's like looking at you like, you know what, David is the guy who I can go.
I wouldn't say I don't know if I'm the elder.
I'm the elder, but like metaphorically
I'm the one. Yeah, so I'm the one that she calls out when she needs help. Yeah. How did it change?
Yeah, like how did it evolve over the years? Like. Did you get stronger or?
100. So my mom and I have always had a strong bond.
Yeah.
Growing up, it was my mom and the boys, right? My mom was taking us hockey. My dad worked a lot, 6 days a week. Well, 5 days a week. Would take off Wednesdays and Sundays, but always working. And then if he wasn't working, then he was doing his rental properties. But I remember, grinding. Like I remember him coming. Like we couldn't eat at night unless my dad was there, right? Because he always wants to have family dinner, family time. Sometimes our dinners doesn't start till like 8:30, like you're a young kid, right? And then so my mom was our everything. She was our best friend. She was, our mom. She drove us to hockey, did all those stuff. And then there was a shift a little later on when my dad realized, we kept saying like, you're never around. It's like, we don't even know you. And then it was a huge shift, and he tried to make sure he made out to more hockey games and all that stuff too. And it became much more part of life, and it changed. Like he was more authoritarian back then, more of like he'd come home, just be angry and stressed out and mad. But you saw the transition from that point. And then we've had a good relationship. She would talk to us, make sure we would talk. And so it ultimately changed when my dad passed away just before that. And I got more involved. So back to the earlier question we had. So it's, but I think the foundation was there, and I love my mother and stuff too. Just, it's a great relationship we have. And sometimes with every relationship, there's bumps on the road and just, you go through, but because you had a solid foundation, your mother's tried the best and you love it. And we talk about stuff too. Even to this day, we'll have a conversation. I'll rip her a new asshole. And I'll be like, you're not doing this, not doing that. What are you doing? And like, and she's a creature of habit of not change. And it's like, I'll do it and won't change. And and we just accept that. Like something, not accept that, we kind of push her a little bit. It's funny that even now I try to push my mom. So the dynamic has changed a lot since we were kids.
Yeah. So as we work towards wrapping up, DC, when you reflect on yourself right now, what parts of you do you think you can get better at in being like a better friend for those around you, those you've built a relationship with over the years, and those potential new relationships? You know what? The next person I have like a close relationship with, I can start doing this better because I'm realizing I'm not doing this with other people around me.
It's not that maybe I'm not doing something, maybe I'm not doing enough of it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is still working on listening. It's a huge part of it. I think we all need to listen. And I'm not saying not to hear, but to listen. And it's funny sometimes, like I'll sit there and I'll listen and I'll pause and I won't say anything. They're like, aren't you going to say anything? I'm like, I'm listening. I'm trying. So I'm actively trying to listen. And the second thing is try to put myself a little more empathetic.
Empathetic?
Yeah.
How?
Putting myself in their shoes and seeing from their perspective a lot of times, because even though they don't see eye to eye, there's a reason why. Where in the past I've been like, what do you mean? But I think literally just kind of put myself in their shoes a little bit more and listening, trying to figure out what it was. And I think those are the two things, right? The two best things, trying not always having a solution to everything. Sometimes people just want to be heard.
Yeah, because it seems like you've always been the fixer. Like
we're men. It's in our DNA.
It's in your DNA. Like someone comes to you like, okay, step 1, do this. Step 2, 3, so forth and so on. And I can understand the empathetic part of you because you and I are very alike in the way we think. And I can imagine from our mindsets, like we think we see the right way because we see, like, how do you not see this BS?
How dare you?
How dare you not see this stuff going around you, right? So you have to like really understand, like, why does that person think like that? How do they get there?
Yeah.
And why do they believe that? And how can I meet them in the middle and actually get to the root cause of their beliefs? Because maybe it could have started when they were younger. And you know, when beliefs are implanted on you at 4, it becomes part of your identity. It's so hard to really mold yourself into something else because that's who you are, right? So you can't really look down. It's like, wow, I can't believe you think like that. But you can think, I mean, you're far off, but you know what? That's your opinion. You feel like that, and I understand. And I'm not going to. I'll tell you my piece of what I think, but it's up to you to see where I'm coming from and have a civil discourse and actually try and understand each other, because that's how you build relationships. Like, we don't always have to agree with others.
I don't agree with that. I'm just joking. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're a dickhead, you know.
I told you I'm an asshole.
Anyways, parting words, man, for those guys out there who are looking to make some new friends, and you know, like they're married dudes, they have like wives and kids, and they don't have time to build these new relationships. What can you leave them with to really get out there and start forming new bonds? The
number one I would always say to people is like, find something you'd love to do and do it, and like see if the people around there like don't force it, right? Yeah. That's the worst thing. It's like, it's that movie I Love You Man. Don't be like that. We're like having to force them, like trying to find the best issues first, because it just won't happen, right? Yeah. Like forcing it is like anything else. It just won't happen. But put yourself out there, though. Figure out what you like to do and continue doing that, and like seeing that you can form bonds. Let it happen a little more organically, but continue to do other things from outside your relationship, like in something you want to do. As long as it's not going to ruin your marriage. I'm not talking going to a bunch of strip clubs all the time and ruin your marriage and doing all this stuff, immoral stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. But like, you know, sports, collecting cards, going to Comic-Con, golf, those kinds of things. There's other things you can do. Like, but at the end of the day, like, but the second thing I would say too, it's sometimes while you're doing that stuff and not looking for friends, you learn to be by yourself and get to really appreciate who you are by yourself. There's no shame in
you can be your own best friend.
Yeah, there's no shame in doing a round of golf by yourself. Yeah, there's no shame in going to watch a movie by yourself. It's actually, sometimes it's liberating. It's kind of fun.
It is. I've done it. I've done a movie by myself. I've done a round by myself. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. That is the DC Talks podcast. This was episode 34. We'll see you next week for episode 35. Hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out.
Ciao.